What's up, y'all? Flash Speaks real quick now. Another video. Alright, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the draft and the choice that the Philadelphia 76ers made, how I feel about it and everything. But before I get into that, I just want to say a few things about Stephen A. Smith, who was on the telecast and was like commenting on who we picked. Stephen A. Smith, like, is a guy, man, now, and I don't have the biggest problem with, but he has a tendency when it comes to Philadelphia to think because he once lived here and once wrote for the Philadelphia Inquirer that he just knows how we feel and what we want and how the Sixers need to act and how we view everything. And like, boy, need to chill a little bit, man. He need to chill a little bit on that. He don't really know us like that. Because right now, I mean, he's wherever he is. I don't know if that's, Connecticut or L.A. somewhere. I don't know where the hell he be. I think they're in Connecticut somewhere. He's not here. He ain't been here in years. You know what I'm saying? Since the Allen Iverson days. That was a long time ago, bro. And, so anyway, you know, he's going on about like how we had to take Edgecombe because, you know, Bailey, we can't take him because he didn't work out with the Sixers and he didn't work out with anybody and all of that kind of stuff. And he said because the Sixers were involved in the process. First of all, he overrates the process, like how Philadelphians feel about it. Sure, when it happened, there was two groups of fans, the Sixers fans. There was a large group that was with it. I wasn't one of them. I never really supported the whole process of tanking and all of that type of stuff. I'm okay with tanking like in a situation like the Sixers had last year where you kind of like already have some pieces to your team, but then there's a down year, like say your main, like last year, Embiid was hurt. He was going to be out. Paul George was going to be out. Once you get to that point where you realize there's nothing really going, then I don't mind shutting everybody down for that 1 year. But I never supported what Sam Hinkie was doing during the time when the Sixers were engaged in that process where we let loose everybody. We got rid of Drew Holiday, got rid of Evan Turner, got rid of Lou Will, and all these guys that we had in order to just tank year after year after year after year after year. Then on top of that, you got people in place who don't know who to pick. So I never supported that. But once we got Joel Embiid and we started getting a couple pieces, I kind of got over it real quick. You know, I just during the process years I wasn't watching it, nor did I in any way as a fan sign off on that joint. You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of Philadelphia 76ers fans who didn't have a problem with the process, and they still don't now. People done long forgot about that joint. There ain't a whole lot of people holding on to this really hatred or whatever towards that. That doesn't really exist like that, except for maybe a couple dudes on the radio who really just fronting. They ain't really like, hey man, people done forgot about that, man. We made the playoffs the last 7 years before last year. That shit so long ago, man. Stephen A. Smith talking about, you can't be the team that had the process and then you take Ace Bailey and all this kind of stuff, you know. Now, with that being said, I don't have a problem with the Sixers taking VJ Edgecombe. I went into the draft with this opinion, okay? I didn't want the Sixers to do any type of trade for an older player, because there was a lot of rumblings about he might trade the number 3 pick for like a Devin Booker. I didn't want to do no shit like that. Traded for Kevin Durant. I didn't want to do that. Now, there was some talk about a possible Giannis. Now, Giannis is the only player I would have made an exception for. Like, if we to trade Giannis the 3 and a couple pieces of whatever, even if it's Maxey, whatever, which I don't want to trade Maxey, but I'm just giving you an example. Giannis is the only player Just period. I would be willing to any willing deal with for, you know. I didn't want to do that. I also didn't want the Sixers to trade back and like try to get a couple extra picks and just grab 2 or 3 pieces. This was something that some people were suggesting. I didn't want to do that. What I wanted them to do was stay put and either take Ace Bailey, who was my first choice, and if you don't take him because you don't feel comfortable with him, then VJ Edgecombe. So lo and behold, we end up taking VJ Edgecombe, and I'm okay with it. Now, talking about these 2 players, and I'm going to give my honest feel on it. I feel like in most years and in most cases and in most situations where you got to pick between a guy like Ace Bailey who fits his profile, talking about 6'10", got good athleticism, can score, defense and effort. I'm sure he can be a defender, right? And a guy like VJ Edgecombe, extremely athletic, 6'4", 6'5", can jump out the gym, fast, probably elite on defense is probably what he'll do immediately. In most cases, you probably take Ace Bailey because he has the higher upside. He's the guy that has the potential to be maybe your franchise player. Whereas with Edgecombe, I don't know if it's so much that he has. It's not impossible, but he doesn't really fit the mold of a guy that you look at and say franchise player. But he's a guy that can be a really good piece on the team. So Ace Bailey was a guy, in most cases, I think you take. But it's up to the Sixers organization to do their due diligence. Talk to this kid. Talk to this kid's former coaches. Talk to teammates. Do whatever. Do your due diligence to not only look at film and tape and figure out how he's going to fit and what type of player he'll be, but to also look at what you're investing in terms of the man himself. Is he a guy that's like you can rely on, right? Is he a guy that's a mental case? All these things, behavior-wise, And I think what happened with Bailey is that he didn't do himself any favors with the way he approached the draft, right? Not saying he's a bad kid or anything like that, but, you coming in with all these type of demands about what teams you don't want to play for, how you not going to work out for nobody. But it seemed like he didn't have a problem working out for the Sixers at one time, but then at the last minute, calls out, decides not to do it, right? A lot of times when you try to determine if you're going to hire somebody or have somebody, just join your squad, those things might reflect how you might think he might be in the future. Because number one, he's not sticking to his word. You know what I mean? And for some people, that is important, that you stick to your words, stick to your commitments, right? Will he be the type of dude, if he not happy, try to force his way out of a contract, right? Those things do matter. So I feel like they went with Edgecombe because, all right, he does have a skill set that can help. He does have a decent upside, right? But the main thing is they're sold on the man Edgecombe, right? He's a kid that's from, Bahamas kid, probably, really good in school. They're not getting any bad reports from anybody that they ask about him with. They're probably getting all flying grades. And then, he's willing to work out. He's cooperative. He's a guy that wanted to really come to Philadelphia. He's a guy that just really excited about coming to the league. You're not coming with a bunch of demands and all this kind of stuff, right? He don't seem like, because what you got going on right now is, after a lot of a lot of what's been happening in this particular era, man, whether it's, LeBron James and all of the new moves he's made in terms of like the freedom that players have. And LeBron isn't the biggest problem. I'm gonna put it this way. But he's seen as the leader of this new wave of like players and all of their freedoms and everything like that. But the reason I don't consider LeBron the biggest problem is because LeBron, at the very least, sticks to his contracts and sticks to his words. In other words, if LeBron signs to your team for 4 years, you can expect LeBron to do those 4 years. If it's 3 years, he's going to do them 3 years. He's never had a history trying to, force his way out of a contract with years left or anything like that. So I give him that. But within that era, there were other players, and there are times like with Anthony Davis. LeBron might not push himself out, but he'll help Anthony Davis push himself out. You see what I mean? But the worst probably ever was probably Ben Simmons and what happened with him, and all of the whole fiasco here in Philly. And for all y'all people that act like the Sixers did him wrong and all that, man, y'all bugging. And you don't know what you're talking about, man. You don't know what you're talking about. But I'm not going to revisit all that. But the stuff that happened with him, I think the Sixers right now, their front office is a little weary about signing at someone that could be a head case. And Bailey just didn't do himself any favors. And you see what happens. He ends up now in a place he really don't want to be at. Utah. Don't nobody want to be out Utah. You feel me? So he didn't do himself any favors with all that, man. And I don't know if it's just him and he taking advice, but it gotta be partly him, because agents are gonna ask you what you want, and then they gonna try to make it happen. It ain't like the agents ain't gonna tell a guy, look, you don't want to go to Utah. They gonna ask you. And those are probably, this is how he ended up like that. So I get the Sixers doing that. Now as far as talking about how this guy fits and how I see it happening with the Sixers, well, the first issue with the Sixers, and it's the reality, like the Sixers are going to go as far as Joel Embiid goes, man. So Joel Embiid, he had got his surgery in April for the meniscus. I don't know the whole details of the surgery, what to expect that to do with his knee. But from all indications from what Daryl Morey is saying, everything is on track for him to play this year. I don't know exactly when he'll be back training camp. I don't know if they're going to have him on minutes restriction. I don't know what they're going to do, man. And I am tired of that stuff, but whatever. This year, if the Sixers are going to do anything, it's really going to come down to Joel Embiid. And I'm not super optimistic about that. I'm really not. Paul George as well. What type of conditions he going to be in? He going to be healthy. And how much? How many games he going to play? How many minutes? How effective will he be? All those are questions, man. But it's going to come down to those two guys, as well as Tyrese Maxey. Maxey, I ain't worried about. I think I know what we're going to get with him. I know the effort. I already know that. So what this guy does, VJ, and I'm assuming that he's going to start because he's the number 3 pick. I think this gives the Sixers a nice, solid backcourt, the type of backcourt I like. 2 young guys, and I think he's the ideal type of guard you pair with Maxey, right? He jumps out the gym, like I said. He plays defense. He's a bigger guard. Right, the ideal guard I always wanted next to Tyrese Maxey, honestly, was Desmond Bane. That's really the ideal guard I always wanted. He's over there in Orlando, so I'm sure HD is happy with that. I'm thinking he like, but I don't know. Hey, sometimes HD, you don't be liking players that I think are good, and sometimes I don't know. I haven't heard what he said about that. I'm gonna ask him. Desmond Bane's a dude I wanted with Maxey. I think it would have been perfect. But that ain't happening. But I like this guy next to him. He brings a lot of the same type of things, a lot of the toughness. He's gonna clean up a lot of stuff, misses. I just see him as that type of player. He could be the high energy, jumping out the gym. A lot of them guys that you see on like OKC and teams like that, them type of dudes. Can't have too many of them athletes out there. Hustle guys, The problem is, I don't know how many other hustle guys we got. Embiid, I don't know at this point, he's going to be a hustle guy. Paul George, I'm not expecting him to be a hustle guy at all. So, we'll see about all that. But I like the backcourt going forward, And we still got the kid, Jared McCain, who Personally, I would trade, see if he has any value. That's just me. We got Quentin Grimes, who shows some promise. So it's going to be really interesting, man. I don't know who's going to play the power forward. We'll see how all that goes. And I'm not the biggest on Daryl Morey in general in terms of the way he builds a team. I don't think he has this type of vision that I like for a team. But who knows, man? Who knows? I'm going to give it a shot. And besides, what the hell can I do about it? You know what I mean? So, that's kind of my take on it, man. And this is an opportunity for the Sixers to do something, man. I think Boston is going to not be contenders. Really, if the Pacers is the biggest thing you got to worry about, or Cleveland, I think we got a shot, to be honest with you. I think we got a shot. So, we'll see, man. I'll get with y'all later. Peace out.